Hi, today we are discussing a suicide prevention plan and how to do that, how to discuss that with the client, and how to document it. So a suicide prevention plan needs to be done with the client, and you'll actually have, I think it's best to have the client actually write these things down. It's not something that we do just for documentation. So you want to have the client really be actively involved. This is something that the two of you are brainstorming together and they're writing down, right? So you want to have them get kind of like a folder or a notebook or something. And let's go through some of the elements to a suicide prevention plan. So the first thing is you want to go through with them are the warning signs, the early symptoms, and the triggers. So make sure you're going to talk to them about the warning signs. These are, the earliest symptoms that you've noticed, that they've noticed, that other people have noticed, that when they start to experience this, they'll know to instill the rest of the plan, right? To keep themselves safe. So some of those early warning signs might even be like just early warning signs of depression, which could be maybe sleeping more, isolating more, losing attention and concentration, maybe being more withdrawn, less social, maybe drinking more, or wanting to, use drugs or something like that. It could be something more intense, but you want to try to get the signs that are the earliest warning signs. And they're going to need help with this. This is where your input will come in really handy, and also the input of others as well, like people that are close to them, people whom they love and trust can be very, very helpful, because we usually see the signs, actually their loved ones usually see the signs before any of us do. We might be second because we usually wouldn't see them as often. And then they're going to usually be the last to see it. And they usually don't see it until they're already feeling and thinking those suicidal thoughts. So again, the first part is brainstorming with them warning signs, early symptoms, and triggers. What triggers? Is there anything? Sometimes there isn't necessarily a trigger. Most of the time there is, though. What are those triggers? It could be people, places, situations, circumstances. It could be tied to maybe general themes of their own fears, doubts, or insecurities, like not feeling good enough, or feeling undeserving, or unloved, or like nothing good ever happens to them, this type of thing. So you want to explore those triggers with them as well. And this will also end up being what you can focus treatment on later. So this works to our advantage as well. So also the next thing would be coping skills and self-care activities. Now, people sometimes use these two phrases like they're one and the same, but they're really not. Coping skills are activities that we engage in that help us manage our symptoms in the moment, right? So, and self-care activities are things that we do ongoing, long-term, on a regular basis to help prevent a symptom exacerbation. So they could look the same, so like taking a bath or exercising, like those could be coping skills. They could also be self-care activities. But you want to have a separate list of both, because you want a list of things that they are doing on a regular basis to keep themselves healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, and possibly spiritually. And then also the coping skills to do in the moment. Real quick tangential thought on coping skills is I have another episode on coping skills, and most clients implement coping skills incorrectly. So there is one called, I believe it's titled Emotional Regulation that you can look at. It's really a guided exercise for clients, but if you want more information on this, it really breaks it down for you. But generally said, the coping skills that we choose to use in the moment need to match the intensity level of our emotion, right? So if we're heightened, let's say scale 0 to 10, 10 being the highest, if we're heightened with, anxiety or anger, or something that is more, active presently, and like we feel that excess energy, doing a coping skill like reading or, cuddling with the dog or taking a bath or meditating, that's not really going to work in the moment. In fact, that can usually shoot us higher on the scale, so we don't want to do that. We need something that matches that same emotional intensity, so something more physically active, whether it's jumping jacks in place or walking. It could be a fast walk or a sprint down the street, or maybe, even just like scribbling, not necessarily journaling, but like where you're just like kind of scribbling or writing, quick words or something like that, venting to a friend. I've even like kind of held a plank for a bit of time, and believe me, it only takes about a minute for that energy to, release right out of you. And then once your energy comes down a little bit, the intensity level, then you can incorporate one of the more calming coping skills, like we were talking about earlier, like meditation or yoga or something like that. So that was just a little sidebar. So going back to the suicide prevention plan, number 3 would be their reasons for living. Right? You want them to brainstorm, big and small, every single possible reason they have for living. Right? Number 4, you want to talk about making their environment safe. How can they make their environment safe? So this could go back to when you did the suicide risk assessment. You should have assessed what if they had a plan, and if they had a plan, you would assess do they have the means to carry out that plan? For instance, if somebody wants to overdose on a particular drug or medication, do they have access to it? So you want to make a plan to get to get rid of or limit that. With prescription medication that they have to take, that's a little bit more difficult because they have to have it. So what you want to do is come up with a plan with them where maybe they could give it to somebody else who can then administer it to them on a daily basis, or maybe their doctor just prescribes, a small, maybe a week's worth or 2 weeks worth or something like that at a time, or anything like that. Just brainstorm those other options. If it's something they don't need, there's people, if they want to cut themselves, this is different than cutting, right? So, but you get rid of all the knives in the house, get rid of any razor blades if that's what they use. Same thing if they want to shoot themselves, you want to make sure they don't have access to a gun. You want to make sure they give it to somebody. And in this suicide prevention plan, you will already have the contact information of their emergency contact that you will have already talked to about this, because they're also involved in this, and that's a protective factor for you as well, and of course your client. So with the other person, you're also going to talk to them and share whatever this plan is, if they can follow up, because obviously we're not at home with them to follow up on this plan. So that's where that emergency contact would come into place, and you would share that plan with them and get that confirmation, and that this is being taken care of and how it's being taken care of. So the next one is who is their support system and how to use them, right? This second part of how to use them is very important. I have seen clients come in with a suicide a suicide prevention plan, and they have a list of people that are part of their support system. But then in the moment, you got to remember, in the moment of heightened emotion, we lose our ability to problem solve, right? Even the easiest of thoughts don't really come to us. So, they have said, I said, well, why didn't you call these people? Why didn't you just, I didn't think of it. I didn't, and it is really that simple. So we really want that second part of, so not just listing who your support system is, but also writing specifically how you can use that support system. Can you call them? What times are they normally available? What did they, ask if, when it's appropriate for them to call? Are they, some people that are very close to them might say, it doesn't matter, 24 hours a day, you call me anytime, you tell me. And what do you call them? What do you say? Do you have, maybe there's a code word you can use, or do you say, I need you, call me, or something like that? It needs to be as concrete and as simple and straightforward as possible, because sometimes even if they get to the step where they reach out, they go, oh, hey, how are you doing? Oh, and other person answers, oh, I'm, at dinner with so-and-so. And they're like, okay, I won't bother you. Well, the other person has no idea, right? So that they really needed them in the moment. So we have to even give them, what are they going to say or text, or how are they going to communicate that need to the other person? And then you're going to have them talk to that other person and come up with this together too. The other person also has to be in on that. The only person that we're in contact with, though, is their emergency contact that they give us permission to. Anybody else, that's on the client to follow through with on their own, and you just give them the guidance, and so to tell them, hey, this is, are you okay if you're part of my prevention plan? And what can that look like? How are you willing? How are you able to be a part of it? Can I call you? What are the hours that would be appropriate? What can I say to you to let you know that I really need to talk to you and that it's an emergency? So, and then they'll write these things down and bring it back in on their own. The next one is having boundaries with people who could be a trigger or be a negative influence, right? This is a huge one, right? Because these triggers, and this would go back to what I was saying earlier. Number one was writing down our triggers. This, again, could be people, places, situations, general fears, insecurities, things like that. It could be really anything. So brainstorm with the client how they can have boundaries, and whether that looks like limited contact or no contact at all. If it is limited, discuss specifics of talking to this person less often, or maybe texting rather than phone calls, or phone calls and text rather than in person, or if they see them, seeing them for less time, or whatever that might look like. But run through it very specifically with them, and them writing all of this down. And the boundaries for each item would be different. So this could definitely take a couple sessions to do, potentially. And then the last piece of this would be writing down emergency resources and contacts. So this could, of course, include suicide hotline, not only like the maybe the 1-800 number, but also the text number, chat support, web addresses, resources, maybe support groups, anything like that, emergency contacts. There's also a lot of apps that now have suicide prevention plans. I checked out at maybe 2 of them, maybe a couple years ago, and I wasn't really impressed myself, but I'm sure they have more out now. So you could definitely use those as a resource, and especially if the client finds it helpful to have those resources right there in an app, that would be great. So you want to have them write this all down. I have them keep it in their phone, or they can take a picture of what was handwritten and favorite that in their photos, or put that in an email and save it somewhere where they know that it's easy to get to. Some other so these are like the main basic elements. So if you want to just run through them again in case you're taking notes, number 1 would be warning signs, early symptoms, and triggers. Number 2, coping skills and self-care activities. Number 3, reasons for living. Number 4, creating a safe environment. Number 5, their support system and how to use it. 6 would be their boundaries with any triggers or negative influences. And number 7, emergency resources and contacts. So beyond this, you can get very creative with this as well. I used to do what's called a hope box. And this would be where they have like a little box. It could be like a little wooden box or even like a shoe box or something like that. If they're crafty, they can decorate it, you know, and it's your hope box. You put somewhere on it hope, the word hope. And in this box, you put, you know, pictures, momentums, anything, any reminders that can remind you in the moment that you can look at, that is, you know, tangible in the moment to remind you of your reasons for living, right? So this could include, you know, pictures of, you know, your family or your, you know, your dog or even things that you have upcoming, maybe graduation or, you know, a upcoming wedding, or you're wanting to have a baby in the future, or, you know, it could be really anything and everything, not just past stuff, but present and future stuff. And it could look very different for a client. They could also do this. It doesn't have to necessarily be the box. They could have, you know, they could do kind of like you would do a vision board, but this would be a hope board, and do it that way. They could maybe make, now digitally, you can make a montage of pictures in your phone that would just be kind of labeled like hope or something like that, and where they could go through and see all the good times that they've had with family and, you know, things like that, things that they're looking forward to, places they love, even like the beach or places they want to travel to in the future. It doesn't have to be like actual pictures that they've taken. You can get pictures off the internet of like these things, of like, you know, somebody graduating, or, you know, pretty much anything. Get creative with it and work with the client. This could be, you know, a good activity for them, and them just working through this is a big help for them, because it's distracting those negative thoughts, the suicidal thoughts, and, you know, kind of redirecting their thoughts to remind them of everything good in their life that they've had and what still can be in the future. And that, you know, not every day is as bad as maybe the day they're in when they're looking at it. So this has been really a really helpful part of the plan in my experience, and something really beneficial for the clients. But, you know, like, be creative, tap into your own creativity and work with your client. Remember, this is a collaboration. So if that's the theoretical background that you subscribe to, but this is a collaboration with the client. So and this is also strength-based, right? And so use the client's strengths to come up with more creative ideas to just give them hope and help them feel safe. All right, thank you.